Elle and Light have both done well on their runs on Gophers and Bass individually, but how would they do if they were put on the island at the same time?
For the first part, Elle will be on Bass and Light will be on Gophers.
They will be taking the place of Ezekiel and Noah since they are the first boot of their respective teams. Finally, things will go by pretty quickly, so I'll assume you know the events of Total Drama Island already. Things would go majorly like in canon, with Elle conducting himself sort of like Ezekiel and Light would be acting like Courtney. When the first challenge begins, Elle wouldn't jump as to look like a coward and be less of a threat, but Light would jump to seem superior to Elle. Bass would lose pretty badly like in canon, and Light would feel superior right now. He would be asked by Trent if he knows Elle or something. He's staring at him pretty intently, and Light would say no, he was just daydreaming. Elle would be able to stay quiet or defend himself well enough for Courtney to leave. Harold would be the only one on the Bass willing to talk to Elle for now. Episode 3 would be the big sleep, and Heather would attempt to steal Eva's MP3, and Light would notice Elle saw it, and he'd warn Heather to put it down. The weird guy saw it. Heather says she's not worried, but Light would say to listen to her. This would cause a scene, and Light would apologize. Heather would say fine, but he owes her. Light asks if an alliance will suffice, and Heather says he's speaking her language. Heather would put the MP3 back and Elle would grab it and give it to Eva, telling her she dropped this. Eva would tell him thanks, she doesn't know what she would do if she lost it. Light would be pissed knowing he lost this encounter, but he would be sure to win the war. Elle would actually win this for Killer Bass, as I'm sure he could stay awake longer than Gwen, and as such Gophers would have to go to elimination. Light would want Justin gone after he cheated to try and get ahead, and also is loved by so many of the girls here. Heather would agree with those reasons and would get Owen and Izzy to help, as well as her initial alliance of Light, Lindsay, and Beth to hold majority and get Justin out. Episode 4 is the dodgeball challenge, and I could easily see Light becoming infatuated with the idea of humiliating Elle in this challenge. Elle would let this occur as it just makes people wonder why Light hates Elle so much, plus it lets him be underestimated if he underperforms in the challenges in the future. In the end though, with both Eva and Duncan on the Killer Bass, Screaming Gophers will lose. This is the point where Heather would enact the plan to get rid of Lashana, since this is something she discusses doing in episode 2, and Light would be down for it since Lashana is a tough competitor. Episode 5 is the talent contest, and Killer Bass have Harold, so they win. Light would tell Heather how he thinks Elle is putting up a facade. Heather would say that's stupid, Elle is just a weirdo. Light would know that Heather isn't nearly as intelligent as he thought, but Izzy would tell him that she feels the same way. Light would realize her true ally has been Izzy all along. There are no good targets here, and since Heather would hold majority, she'd target someone she doesn't need in the game like Gwen. So Gwen gets her notebook read and also gets eliminated in the same day. Episode 6 is the first Screaming Gophers win since episode 1, since Elle would let Katie and Sadie get separated from the group. Light would want to make Owen look like a fool, so he'd ask a lot of questions about his stories with his grandpa, and it would end up making him look foolish since he wouldn't know what he's talking about, and Izzy wouldn't feel the need to dress as a bear and scare the Gophers to teach Owen a lesson. Katie would leave. Episode 7 is the phobia factor, and Elle would say his fear is the Grim Reaper, and Light wouldn't know whether to believe that or not. Light would say he isn't afraid of anything, and later Chris would reveal that due to the application form, they know Light's fear, and Light would be locked in a room until elimination time. He wouldn't know anything about what happens in the challenge today. Elle would figure out that he isn't claustrophobic, he's paranoid and will overthink things with no information. Even still, Killer Bass lose, and Elle would allow Tyler to take the fall since he doesn't care about him. Light would be told everything by Heather, and he'd have to wonder if she was hiding something or not. Episode 8 is the challenge where they have to go to Boney Island. Harold, Eva, and Elle would be on the same canoe, and they'd all agree to form an alliance since the others certainly are looking for any excuse to eliminate them. Izzy would be with Light, and Light would try to get any more information about yesterday, but Izzy would dodge the question, infuriating Light. Light would get the Boney Island totem after warning Beth not to take it, and Elle would notice it but act like he doesn't. He would need to warn his team and tell them to check their bags constantly, since he doesn't know what Light would be willing to do. Screaming Gophers would lose this challenge thanks to DJ, and Izzy would be chased off by the RCMP. Light would feel disappointed, but would know now that he can take control soon of his team. Episode 9 is Paintball Deer Hunt, and Killer Bass would definitely win. Light would spend a majority of the challenge trying to find Elle, only to fail. In the end, due to the infighting, Screaming Gophers would lose, and Light would be able to put the votes onto Owen instead of Beth, since he'd want to keep Beth since she's a blind follower. Heather would reluctantly agree. The reason he doesn't just get rid of Cody is because Cody will be indebted to him if he keeps him. Episode 10 is the cooking challenge. Light would decide this is the time to enact his plan and would plant the Boney Island totem at Heather's belongings, and when she blows her eyebrows off, he would give her the makeup bag with the totem in it, and when she pulls it out, Beth would say that's a totem from Boney Island, getting everyone on her case. Elle would know what happened and would be relieved until Light would say he will take care of it. Elle would offer to dispose of it, and Heather would tell him to butt out of it and help his own team fail. Light would say it's fine, he can dispose of it himself. Gophers lose, and Heather is eliminated in a shocking elimination between her and Trent, and Heather would say that she knew Lindsay and Beth were traitors. She'd leave, and Light would tell her that she's sorry she left so soon. Heather says it's fine, it was Beth's fault to begin with. Light says right, he will make sure to put the totem to good use in the future. Heather would be shocked that Light didn't dispose of it, but Heather would say, I can't wait to see what you'll do with it, I knew you wouldn't just get rid of it so easily. Episode 11 is a trust building competition, and for the tiebreaker it would be Elle and Jeff versus Light and Beth. Elle would actually be trying his best to win so that he could expose Light for having the totem, but soon Light gets frustrated knowing he's losing and intentionally hits a landmine to try and fly to the finish line, and he does just that, allowing his team to win. Elle would be shocked and would know someone here got the totem instead, but he wouldn't know who. Elle, Eva, Harold, and Sadie would be able to vote Duncan since Elle wouldn't appreciate his bullying of Harold. Bridget would also go along with this since she finds him rude and doesn't find the idea of Harold bullying that fun, especially since Harold didn't let her fall into jellyfish in this challenge, thus Duncan leaves. Episode 12 is Chef's Boot Camp, and despite having Eva, Light would be able to fight enough to win this challenge. Elle would be incredibly paranoid and would quit rather early, but believably, to search everyone's belongings. He wouldn't be able to find it, which would mean that Light hid it somewhere. He would know that Light is planning something, but wouldn't know what to do. Killer Bass would lose once again, and DJ would be voted out only because he's the only one here who won't do literally everything in the challenge besides Elle. Elle would have a target as well since he quit so early, so he'd almost be voted out but would survive today. Episode 13 is the Extreme Sports Challenge. Trent and Jeff would need to dive out of the plane, and Jeff would accidentally push Trent similarly to DJ. The next part would have Eva and Lindsay attempting to ride the bull, and Eva would win. Finally, Light would ski for Screaming Gophers while Beth would drive, and Bridget would ski and Elle would drive for Bass. Bridget would end up crashing for Bass, making Elle think she has the totem somehow, and he'd intentionally crash. Elle would get his alliance to vote off Bridget, and Light would say in confessional that he's so stupid, it's not her who has the totem, it's somewhere he will never find it. If you want to know what Cody has been doing since I haven't mentioned him in a while, honestly nothing. Dude is just chilling. Episode 14, and girls would be able to choose one guy to bring over, and Eva would choose Elle. The other girls would have wanted Light, but Eva would have threatened them. This would be tough since girls have Eva, and Light would want to win more than ever, so Elle doesn't get anything good in his life. In the end, Eva and Light would have a tiebreaker round, and Eva would probably grab Light's hand so he couldn't drink all of them and would drink more than Light. Elle would think that the totem is on the guy's side as a result. Merge is here. Izzy would come back as well as Courtney since she would be like Eva in the canon timeline. Due to her combative nature, nobody would want to team up with her, and in the end it would be Eva who would be able to beat Courtney to win immunity, and so Courtney would be voted out in the first unanimous vote in a while. Episode 16 is the episode where all that matters is Heather's key, and that would go to Light. Light would be able to figure it out and would get immunity. Light would want to get Elle out, and his group of Trent, Cody, Beth, Lindsay, Izzy, and himself would agree. Elle would know he's a target and would actually get Harold to rig the vote since he'd know that Light was paying attention to him. He'd get Cody out since he'd assume the totem is on Cody. He doesn't want to risk any supernatural powers in this game. As a result, Cody would be eliminated and Light wouldn't even know what happened, coming to the conclusion Izzy must have flipped. Episode 17 is the hide and seek challenge, and Elle would spend the time attempting to get Trent to join his alliance. Trent says he likes Light and his alliance though, but Elle says what if he were to say that Izzy was the reason Cody left? Trent asks if that's true, and Elle says believe what you want, put your trust in Light and his group which contains Izzy or trust us, the choice is yours. Light would once again win immunity as he's the only one who'd think to hide in the water, and at elimination Elle would tell Trent they're voting for Izzy, but in reality they vote off Trent. They know Trent will most likely flip back to Light afterwards, so they need to get rid of Trent now. Trent would be shocked and Light would tell him that some people really are evil. Episode 18 is the bike racing challenge, and I could easily see Eva getting last, since she would push over anyone coming close, and Lindsay would be in the lead. Thus, Eva would be last, and she would be eliminated. Episode 19 is the horror movie challenge, and in the end, Elle would be in the same room as Light, and both of them would accuse the other of being a traitor. When the real killer comes in, they just beat him with no real issue, and then get back to talking until Chris tells them both win immunity. Sadie would be automatically eliminated as she would have disqualified herself from the competition by eliminating herself. 12. Episode 20 is a reward challenge which Light would win since he's trying his hardest to win. Elle would tell Harold to rig the votes once again, and Light would have caught on by now and swapped the votes back. However, Elle had already prepared for this scenario and had Harold put a fake voting container for Light to rig while he hid the real one. Elle takes the real one out from underneath a loose plank of wood in the confessional and puts 2 final votes into it, one being from Elle and one being from Light. The votes come out. 3 votes Elle, 4 votes Izzy. Light is confused, angry, every negative emotion in the book, but doesn't show it. Episode 21 is the Triumph Triathlon, and it would be Elle and Light paired together, Jeff and Beth paired together, and finally Lindsay and Harold paired together. Elle and Light would be gauging each other to see who can break the other first. Jeff and Beth would win part 1. While on Boney Island, Elle would take his pens out and drop them onto the ground. Light would ask what he's doing, and Elle would say he's returning the totem before going on to explain what happened. You were smart, Light. You knew I would be looking for the idol, so you did the only intelligent thing you could do. You shaved the totem down to just the shavings. At that point, you opened every pen I had and filled them with wood shavings. Light says, very good, Elle, but you forgot one thing. How can you be so sure it was only your pens? Elle says I can't. That's why I already returned all my belongings to the island and burned them all already. These pens were just for theatrics. Light would be shocked he'd go that far when he just put some of the wood shavings into the bag. Since they spent so much time talking, they would win part 2, and then finally Harold and Beth would win part 3 since Elle would wimp out. Elle would tell Light that he won't go for him again, but he expects him not to as well, or else he will replace the votes again. Utter turmoil would occur with everyone not wanting to vote for anyone after spending the day with their partner, and so Elle and Light's votes would be the only deciding factor. They'd both vote for Beth, the reason being that next to them, she is the only one who has the most resilience and will do gross stuff more than any of the others. Light would say that he's sad to see her go, and he would know he won her vote in a potential jury. Now he just needs Lindsay gone next. Episode 22 is the episode where Katie and Sadie get to decide who leaves, and out of these options, they'd most likely say Lindsay, so ironically, Light already gets his wish. Episode 24 would have Elle and Light versus Jeff and Harold. Begrudgingly, Elle and Light would know that they have to win. As a result, I doubt there's a chance for Jeff and Harold, and Jeff would get rid of Harold. Elle would say he's sorry to see him go, and Harold would say it's fine, him and Jeff are still in. Episode 25 is Triple Dog Dare, and both Elle and Light wouldn't want either of them to leave. At this point, both of them would want to prove that they played the game right, so when a jury vote occurs, they'd win. Both sides would be piling on challenges onto Jeff, and he would do everything. But when he has to cut his hair, he refuses, saying that Bridget would hate him if he looked like Walter White. He'd leave, and both of them would be trying to win his vote, and Jeff would say, hey dudes, it's cool, don't worry about it, I like you both, I won't choose. Episode 26 is the finale. Elle's supporters are Jeff, Bridget, DJ, Eva, Harold, Izzy, Justin, LaShawna, Sadie, and Gwen. Lots of friendships would be split, and Light would ask Izzy why she's on his team, and she would say, I don't know, I like him more today. Chris says that's fine, because it wasn't a jury vote anyway, it's a challenge. These two are the most evenly matched here, and every step allows both parties to get ahead. It will get to the end where Elle would say, hey Light, one last gift from me. He'd throw a pen filled with wooden totem shavings right into the pathway of Light's next step, and he'd slip on it, falling and allowing Elle to cross the finish line first. Light would say that's not fair, he should be disqualified, banned, I was robbed. Elle would tell him to stay humble before leaving the cash on the ground as the chopper comes down to pick him up. Watari would ask for his thoughts. Elle would say that the probability of Light being Kira rose to 10%. Chris McLean has more than enough evidence to put him away for a while, but if they do one more season they can put the producers in charge of this away as well. Watari asks if that's the only reason or maybe he had fun, and Elle says it is a possibility. And that's that for Light vs. Elle. What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and have the day you deserve.